Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, making another addition to the defensive coaching staff heading into 2025 as former Jacksonville State cornerbacks coach Terry Jefferson making his way back to this Miami Hurricanes program. Now, for the Miami Hurricane fans who followed this program pretty closely, this is a familiar name, right? Was on staff between 2020 and 2022 before leaving for Jack State, in which he did a really good job in his 2 years at Jacksonville State. And although this is a quote unquote off the field hire, it with the new rules that the NCAA put down, like it don't really matter. These coaches are going to be extremely hands on in terms of player development on the recruiting trail. And Terry Jefferson kind of checks both of those boxes. You know, the Miami Hurricane fans who've been rocking with the fellas the last couple of weeks as we've evaluated some of these coaching staff additions, we look for two things, especially when you're coming in as an assistant. One, are you a proven player developer? And number two, can you recruit? You look at Terry Jefferson, I could sell you on the player development in 30 seconds. I mean, you look back at that 2024 season for Jacksonville State, they had four cornerbacks that went and transferred to Power Four programs. You also had Zachariah Poyser as a safety, who's now with the Miami Hurricanes, was one of the best safeties in the country in the 2024 year. A lot of good cornerbacks coming from Jacksonville State, working their way up the college football landscape. If that ain't player development, like I don't know what is. And then the second thing you look at with a guy like Terry Jefferson is what can he do for Miami on the recruiting trail? One, he's a Miami native, played 4 years at Booker T. Washington, started every single year during his high school time at Booker T. Washington. He's a young guy that has deep roots to South Florida. That's going to be an asset in a big time way on the recruiting trail. So the way I look at it, just on a surface level, I'm saying, hey, he's checking both boxes that we are looking for these coaching staff additions. And I got to give Mario Cristobal a ton of credit. You know, has it been a roller coaster of a ride so far at his tenure at Miami? Yeah, absolutely. But he's making the changes necessary. And you see so many head football coaches so stubborn and afraid to make changes. Mario Cristobal looked at that 2024 year and look, they got a lot of things right. Like I think they got Shannon Dawson right. I think they have on the offensive side of the football, they got a lot of things going in the right direction. One of the things that clearly didn't in 2024 was on defense, specifically in the defensive backfield. Mario Cristobal is sparing no expense going out and immediately changing it. And this modern era of college football where you can use the transfer portal, you can go get new coaches, you can revamp a part of your football team in one offseason. And there are so many coaches that seem to be kind of stagnant and not really willing to make big time changes that can catapult programs. Mario Cristobal is doing that. And so shout out Mario Cristobal. I think this is a Miami Hurricanes team. You talk about winners of the offseason. It's hard not to put Miami in the top five in the country in terms of just getting better going into 2025. And I think Mario Cristobal certainly playing a big role in that. Want to get a little bit more into Terry Jefferson, talk about what he brings to this Miami Hurricane staff before we get into it. As always, just want to say thank you to you guys and especially to the Miami Hurricane fans, you know, breaking down Zach Etheridge, breaking down Corey Heatherman, talking about this new coaching staff. I've personally had an absolute blast. All the support you guys throw in the comment section, all the support you guys have shown the boys has been amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, doing my, well, let's start here actually. 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know how big of a storyline this is, you know, because when these non on field coaches didn't have, I don't think, that much influence on the football team. Now with the new rule changes from the NCAA, these guys are just as important as some of your position coaches. And so, yeah, 4 years ago, maybe it's kind of a non-story. Now I think it's a really big story because this is a guy that can come in immediately, get to work with these players in spring practice and, you know, start developing a secondary that I think has all the talent in the world to be a really good unit in 2025. And in this modern era of college football, with these new NCAA rules, if you are a head coach, you are trying to fill your staff with really good coaches, top to bottom. And Mario Cristobal is going out of his way clearly to do that. Another thing I like about Terry Jefferson is, look, he was a really good college football player at Florida A&M. probably not the most talented, was only 5'9", was sub 200 pounds, wasn't that prototypical, P4 talent in terms of the body type we're looking for. That didn't really stop him from being a really good football player, not only at the high school ranks, but also at the college ranks as well. 3-time all conference caliber dude. And so I look at it and say just the makeup of him off the field in terms of, hey, maybe I'm not the most blessed physically, but became just a really good football player, probably because how he was wired between the ears. That's something that stands out to me. And then you look at, all right, that's one thing. Now let's look at the sample size of what we have as a coach here, elevating through the ranks, right? Did a really good job with the Miami Hurricanes going back to his time there a couple of years ago. Got elevated to a cornerbacks coach at Jacksonville State, did a really good job there. Now he's coming back to the Miami Hurricanes. One thing you feel good about is Mario Cristobal knows him. And so this is not a blind hire. We know what to expect from a guy like Terry Jefferson. We know what he's going to bring to the program. That's something you like a lot as well. 1.7 turnovers per game for Jacksonville State in 2024, a team that immediately came to the FBS level and had a ton of success, specifically on the defensive side of the football. There's a lot to like from the coaching standpoint that Terry Jefferson brings to the table. Then you look at the recruiting trail. Born and raised in Miami, was a multi-year captain at Booker T. Washington, probably has a lot of roots and connections in South Florida at the high school ranks. He is going to be an asset for the Miami Hurricanes on the recruiting trail. And that's one thing that routinely we've seen from Mario Cristobal when he goes out and hires assistant coaches. He wants guys that can be assets on the recruiting trail. Terry Jefferson is that. So to me, he checks both boxes. Hey, I can develop players. I can get it done on the recruiting trail. When you have both of those things checked, you're probably getting a pretty damn good assistant coach. Looking at the secondary, and this is what excites me the most, is they went from 0 to 100. Last year, yes, the coaching was really bad, but the personnel in the secondary was pretty dang bad too. We are completely changing that on the head. We are getting a new defensive backs coach. We're pretty much bringing in a brand new staff on the defensive side of the football, but we're not only going to fix the coaching staff, because now in this era of college football, we also get to fix our personnel in 1 year. And how do you want to use the transfer portal? You want to use the transfer portal to bring in really good football players at the positions that you need to address. And Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes have done that in a big time way. They got, 4 cornerbacks, and Charles Brantley, Xavier Lucas, Emmanuel Carnley, and Ethan O'Connor, who would have been better than, outside of O.J. Frederick, would have been better than any other cornerback that was on this Miami Hurricanes roster in the 2024 year. It's all of a sudden the talent is there. And now the big challenge for someone like Tony Jefferson or somebody like Zach Etheridge or Corey Heatherman is, hey, how do we put together this puzzle? Where are people slotting in the defensive backfield? Are we going to see some cornerbacks switch to nickel? Are we going to see some cornerbacks go to safety? The challenge now is you got the players, in my opinion. Now you got to put the puzzle piece together and have this unit come together as one going into 2025. Last year, just knew you didn't have the personnel. Now you do. Now can you put the puzzle piece together? That's the question. And Mario Cristobal is bringing in the staff to be able to do that. Big fan of what the Miami Hurricanes have done in the offseason, and it just seems to be getting better. We're just checking things off the list in terms of getting things right under Mario Cristobal. And to me, even with the disappointing year in 2024, and I'd probably note, winning 10 games is now a disappointment for the Miami Hurricanes. That's where you want to be as a program. When we're saying, hey, that's not good enough to just be a top 15 team in the country. We want to win ACC championships, play in the college football playoffs. That speaks to where Mario Cristobal has this program at the moment. And we're continuing to elevate this program at the spots it needs to be elevated in. Another really good hire. A lot of talent coming into this defensive back room. It's going to be a very fun spring practice for the Miami Hurricanes. We'll get out of here on that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.